everyone, and welcome to another Dojo Live show this Wednesday, October 12th, 2022. My name is Kim Lantis, and it's my pleasure to be hosting along with America Guerrero.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, and today's guest, of course, the most important person of the show is Manuela Zoninsein, who is CEO and founder of Kadeya. Manuela, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Good to
Yes.
see you.
Yes, we're always excited when we have the female empowered shows, and it's always exciting. We get a little pumped up. I know that might be a bit biased of us, but we're excited. And thank you. I know it's we're being a company founder and leader, a mother, all of this. I know how valuable your time is, and we thank you for being here. So we're going to be talking today about single-use packaging and how tech is playing a role in that. But before we do, we'd love to get to know you, Manuela, a bit better, your background, your story, your passion, and what's led up to Kadeya. Please share with us.
Sounds good. So great to be here. And thank you, both of you, for hosting me. And I will take the bias as a mom and female soul founder anytime I can get it, because most of the time it cuts the other way. So I'll take it. And a bit about me. A lot of this will come up through the story of the business as well. A few things that I think will be really relevant for your audience. I was born in Brazil and I moved to the States when I was 7. Before that, my grandparents had immigrated to Brazil, and then my mom, who's American, had immigrated to Brazil. So this long generation of kind of immigrants in my life. And I like to say that I credit being an immigrant to being resourceful and frugal and creative and empathetic to other people. And I think that's why I've gotten to the point to be able to build Kadeya. So I always hated waste. I think actually a lot of people hate waste, but you're just, when you're a kid, you're growing up and you just, you learn, okay, that's the garbage. This is where things go in the garbage, right? And we just grow up with these things that you sort of question at first, but then you kind of go along with it and you're like, well, that's the way the world works. For me, it just never felt right. I was always picking through the garbage at home and separating things out and figuring how we could reuse things. In second grade, my second grade science fair project was a bus that ran on garbage. I used to...
That's next after Kadeya, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Next big business. And then before cell phones, we used to write notes to each other. And I would always write back in the space between lines and then ask people to write on the back, just all these little things that I think are actually how you kind of figure out what your passion is going to be, is what are those little things day to day that you do that no one else wants to do and thinks is crazy? That's sort of your calling, right? That's what you're going to love and want to do naturally. So moved to the States, grew up in the US. I was lucky enough to have an opportunity after college to go to China for business. And I got there in 2005 and I was just like, wow, what is going on here? I want to understand. I don't know the culture. I don't understand the language, the food. The country is growing so fast and changing so quickly. And so I applied for some fellowships and I got one, and I moved back full time to Beijing in 2007 and started learning Chinese.
Wow. And, so while we're at it, how many languages do you speak then? Portuguese, English,
Spanish, Chinese, and Mandarin.
Wow.
I love languages. That's my other craziness. And so I spent 8 years in China, and I said, I'm not leaving till I learn this language. But I also got to start my first business there and sold that to a partner. And then I got a grant from the Brazilian government and went back to Brazil to start my second business, which is now the largest online marketplace for smallholder farmers in Brazil. And then I got a call from the one company I ever wanted to work for. It's called Palantir Technologies. And they asked me to join their business development team. And it was basically like being an entrepreneur in a really well-funded environment where they said, go and just figure out business opportunities. So I actually focused on CPG and didn't make the connection to Kadeya until much later. Didn't think it was going to lead to anything. But I will say, while I was in the office every day, I hated all the single-use waste that we were generating. We had fridges full of all the fancy beverages, and people didn't think twice about opening that fridge door and grabbing, their Pellegrino or their Waterloo or whatever, the Diet Coke, whatever their product was, we had it. And so I worked with the kitchen staff to launch a reusable water bottle program. And after 3 years, we did great. It reduced waste of the single-use bottles by 30%, which 30% is a good number. But then you start thinking about that 70%.
But yeah.
And actually, outside of that, the office in the US, the market for single-use plastic water bottles last year was $40 billion, whereas the market for reusable bottles was $2 billion. So it's a 20-time larger market last year, and it's growing 2 times faster.
40 billion versus 2 billion. And then if you want to say an average price of a water bottle, let's say is $1. So we're talking about 40 billion just water bottles that are produced or more each year.
Yeah, it's actually estimated in the US that we're using about 350 billion single-use bottles a day. And since you both are based in Mexico, actually the US doesn't even go in the top 5 per capita of
Mexicans love their Coca-Cola. So I'm wondering if it was Mexico a top 5? Are we
1?
Oh my God.
Per capita, Mexicans consume more single-use beverages.
So we're done here. Thank you, Manuela, for the show.
Sorry. So but that's the point, is like the real problem is single use, and giving people reusable bottles and expecting them to use those is not going to be the answer long term. I'm glad people do that. I do that. I'm a sustainability nerd. I'm carrying around my bottle. I'll go fill it up in the tap. I don't care. Most people will not do that. So that's what we're focusing on at Kadeya. And so it's these obsessions that I've built over time that have gotten me to where I am.
I love it. So let's talk about Kadeya and the business model you've created, how kind of tech is sort of playing in that role. Exactly what is it that you're doing? The problem we understand, but how are you doing that?
Perfect. So what we're doing is building a network of mini bottling stations. They are like a vending machine in size, and like a vending machine, they vend beverages conveniently. That's where the similarities end, because when you're done, you return the bottle to any station in the network, and the station itself washes, sanitizes, inspects, and refills the bottle. So what we're essentially doing is combining a huge bottling plant with a dishwasher, with a soda fountain in a 7.5 square foot box. And that's the core technology. But where things get really exciting is the data that we're generating. So you interact with the station through a QR code. We don't need to know your name and date of birth and phone number. We don't know anything about you like that, but we know you are a unique individual. We know your user ABC or XYZ, and every bottle has a laser etched serialized QR code on the bottom. Every bottle is unique and identifiable. And so what that means is when you scan your QR code and let's say user ABC, you get bottle 1234 at 10 a.m. at station A. And then when you return your bottle 1234 at 11 a.m. at station B, we have that data to understand the throughput and the utilization on a network basis, on a per station basis, and on a per user basis. And that data, even though it's not very complex information, it's actually generating invaluable insights for the entire beverage supply chain. So the hardware is right now the hardest part. We're building that and we're almost done. It's patent pending and first time it's ever been built. But long-term, we're really a data and sustainability business enabled by the machine.
Where you can find those machines? In big cities or towns? Is there any specific market?
Yeah, great question. So we are focused on workplaces to begin with, but not the workplaces you normally think of, not, an office, for example. We're focused on industrial workplaces. So manufacturing plants, construction sites, refineries, fulfillment centers. And it's a recent discovery we made a couple months ago where those environments only have single-use options. right?
Yeah.
Either you go to your break room and you go to the vending machine and you get a bottle, or maybe there's a fountain and then there's like the single-use cups that you would grab and refill. So there's no alternative right now. It's also a closed environment where people,
Yes,
even
exactly.
during COVID, they go back every day. So there's a habit and people learn how to use our system. So rather than me being, Kadeya being in a hotel where every day you'd have to get a new set of users and they'd have to learn a little bit of how to use the station, in a workplace, once you learn the Kadeya system, it's very intuitive and easy. And we've also had 100% bottle return rates because we link your QR code to your work ID. And we don't penalize anyone. There's no deposit. There's no punishment if you don't return your bottle. But people at work try to do the right thing. And so it's kind of like the, better angel of our nature. People sort of want to do the right thing at work. And
It's
so
like returning the
that's how-
shopping cart. Most people will put it where it goes.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's a great parallel. I hadn't thought of that. I love that.
You do have a few jerks who don't care, but most people.
Most people. Absolutely. And we're okay even if you lose the bottle, you break the bottle, you put a piece of gum in there, we're going to welcome you back because our business is providing you beverages. And if we slow that down, people will turn away and then they'll still go to that vending machine and get that plastic or aluminum container. So with Kadeya, we want to welcome everyone back. And then with our data, we'll learn what are they dropping the bottles. Okay, we need to use a different kind of bottle. Or maybe we will learn people, this is an extreme situation. Maybe people chew tobacco and they're spitting their, the tobacco spit back into the bottle. Okay, is there an incentive we should give people to dump out that spit? Or can we teach them about the health benefits of not putting that back in? So I don't have all the answers for those edge cases, but the data is going to be what leads our decision making long term.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is super, super smart, even just from the business standpoint of having solid data and starting directly where you can have a strong impact. And then hopefully, like that ripple effect as we're tossing that stone into the water, that it's just going to be able to get bigger and bigger and bigger as time goes on. And which really brings us as part of the topic today. Your question was, how can beverage companies deliver products people know and love? And I think that is, for me, one of the big questions. It's not just about drinking some water. Like let's say I'm a Pepsi girl. I prefer Pepsi over Coke.
Okay.
Die hard. But somebody who's convinced, right? Yeah, sure, I'd like to go green. I can get on board, but I want my Pepsi. And so it's really interesting, I think, to start there and make that available to people. And then hopefully with this data, I think the vision for me is that the major beverage companies are going to get on board and see the value. And hopefully this is going to be something that turns into availability everywhere, right? That Kadeya would become a household name, and then you're the shopping mall or the airport, and this makes sense. So I want to talk about that a little bit because honestly, I've read this too, a meme, something about the world doesn't need 1,000 zero waste individuals doing it perfectly. We need millions of people doing it imperfectly. And I think that's sort of where you're starting. How did you get, or what's your approach when it comes to those products that people know and love? What's the buy-in from the major beverage corporations?
Yeah, I love everything you said. Completely agree. And just, I want to make a point, you're not in the beverage industry yourself, but you are already so aware of the problem of single use. You also understand packaging. You understand these brands. I think consumers are very smart. And that's a starting point for us at Kadeya, is to say consumers are intelligent. They're making smart decisions. Kadeya will only win if we are the most convenient, highest quality, and ultimately lowest cost option, right? We have to win across the business metrics. And then we get to tell that sustainability story. Sustainability, unfortunately, doesn't lead. It makes people feel good. They want it, but you have to beat the other businesses across the other categories first.
Yeah, money, unfortunately, still makes the world go round.
100%.
Yeah. Have you ever provided a consultant service, you personally, with companies that want to not just provide bottled waters but other kind of products? Do you have an example?
Yeah, so that's a perfect lead-in. What we're doing at Kadeya, currently we provide just flat filtered water. We connect to the water main. It's local water. We do a water test at every location to select our filter and to make sure that we're filtering for the right qualities. So for example, if we need to go to Flint, Michigan or Jackson, Mississippi, where lead is a real big problem, we can do that. We tap into the tap, right? We want to reinforce the tap infrastructure that exists. We, in our next prototype, will be able to add carbonation and any flavoring. And so this comes back around to answer your questions. Just like when you go to a soda fountain at a McDonald's, the way you get your Coca-Cola product is that there's a machine and then there's a little bag with a little plastic bag tube with inside of a box. And that is provided by Coca-Cola. The manager or whoever's doing the beverages at McDonald's puts that bag in once the syrup is getting low. We want to leverage that. We can also do the bag in box technology in Kadeya, that's why I said that we are a combination bottling plant, dishwasher, and soda fountain, because we really are exactly like a soda fountain with one step further, because we also bottle it for you. So you don't have to stand there with a single-use cup and wait to fill it up. It gets delivered to you in a container that you just grab and then go on about your way. It takes a few seconds. So the way we've positioned our business model is to enable and incentivize any of the beverage incumbents, you know, the brands, we've talked about a few of them, to want to move and put their product through the Kadeya network. In the beginning, we're a new channel for them, right? They have bottles and they have soda fountains. And then I guess those are basically the two main channels, and they get sold in different ways. We want to be a third option where they would say, oh, wow, okay, there's this new thing. It's not quite a vending machine. It's not quite a soda fountain. We'll use Kadeya and let's see how that works. It doesn't cost us more money. And they're putting Kadeyas in new locations and accessing new audiences. And there's all this really great data coming in. So cool, we'll learn a bit. And then what we're hoping is, as we prove out our value proposition, because we are more convenient, we're higher quality, and we're lower cost, and we're lower carbon, just, you know, as like an extra credit there, we think that we're positioned to win long-term, where the beverage brands will say, wait a second, why are we even still stocking vending machines where we have to truck all this product and a human has to go and restock it? Or why do we go and take trucks of product to the gas station? You know, those fridges at the gas station, in the back is a huge refrigerator room that they need to have all this inventory that they have to keep manually restock. It's crazy that we're doing that. And when you think about labor shortages and the fact that humans don't want to do those jobs anymore, it will make sense for there to be a Kadeya station. You don't need that fridge in the back. You don't need to have that room full of inventory. You don't need to have a human restocking. And now you're getting all this data about how your consumers are interacting with your product. So we've set up the business, to deliver value across the entire supply chain. And we have really nice profit margins that we can share with them along the way. But we also are making sure that our brand is a platform that we're not a beverage brand, right? I'm not competing with Coke or Pepsi.
Yep.
I'm a platform for them to put their product on top of.
You could have a Pepsi Kadeya machine right next to a Coke Kadeya machine, and
yeah.
Yeah.
And it can be their branding. You know, it'll be powered by Kadeya, kind of like the Intel Pentium chip inside of your Dell laptop. That's kind of what we want to be. We want to be the platform that supports all beverage commerce. So that's how we've designed the business and the business model.
Absolutely. So smart. Let's talk about the data, like the type of data that you're collecting, numbers, what you've found that it's useful for, and sort of the tech. And I know you're using QR codes, but what's behind that? How is this possible, and what type of influence and how could, you know, partners, companies that choose to have Kadeya machines benefit from it?
Yeah, I love that question. We're constantly workshopping that and trying to improve. So if you guys have ideas, or anyone in the audience and you want to throw them out, I'm all ears. So we are only collecting 6 types of data. It's 6 columns of data. It's very rudimentary information. So what we're collecting is your user ID, like what's your QR code, what was the location of your vend, the vend date and time, what beverage did you select, the location of your return, and the return date and time. That's it. We also, what we do is when we go on site to a new location, like you said, you're a Pepsi girl, right? Most companies, most locations usually are one or the other, not always. What we'll do is
McDonald's is a Coke affiliated company, right?
correct. Yeah, exactly. So we do a greenhouse gas footprint analysis of the alternative. So we have a baseline, and then we have our greenhouse gas footprint on a per use basis. And in our first version of our station, we were 64% less greenhouse gas intensive than a PET bottle on a per use basis, PET plastic, and 67% less greenhouse gas intensive than aluminum on a per use basis. Our next prototype is going to be 95% less greenhouse gas intensive on a per use basis, and we're on track to be 99%. So what we're doing is essentially saying you can still get your beverage that you love, your Pepsi product, but you now get to consume it and rest assured that there's nearly zero carbon footprint associated with that product. And I think people are going to feel excited about that and want to participate in that story.
I completely agree. And I think this is one of those elements where it's ahead of its time, but it's the forefront. And it's definitely, I hope, the way that the future is pushing. So if beverage companies, the sooner I think that they get on board with this, the better it's going to be for their bottom line, but ultimately, I think the planet as we move forward. What would you say to us, the beverage drinkers, how, in your own experience of, note taking and using every little corner of the paper and whatnot, sometimes we can, our passion can actually be a turn off for other individuals. So how can we help cultivate like this new culture, this more green culture in individuals? Like what can we do in terms of our own use and maybe encouraging others to get on board without achieving the opposite, right, of what we're hoping to do?
I love that question. And that is an ongoing journey for me. I've been on it for 15 years and I'm always getting better. So I'm also open to everybody's thoughts on that. My business school professor, John Sturman, says that data shows that data doesn't change anybody's minds. And so I used to just shout the numbers out. Did you know the carbon footprint of this and what you're doing? And people hated it, right? They don't want, first of all, climate change is such a scary, big topic and everyone feels so powerless. Like they don't want to think about this really scary negative thing, when like you're at a bar having a drink, right? Like they want to relax, they want to have a good time. They also don't want, like, who am I lecturing them and weighing in on their lifestyle, which is totally understandable. So the kind of big picture lesson I've learned is you need to build trust first. You need to build a relationship. And that, we all know how to build relationships. It's getting to know the person earnestly. It's knowing what drives them, what motivates them, what do they care about? And similarly, sharing that back to them in an honest way. So I'm a vegan, I'm not shouting that from the rooftop. Well, I guess I am today, but, in general, I used to kind of lead with that. I'd sit down at dinner and I'd tell everyone why I'm a vegan. No, if people want to ask, they can ask me. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to change who I am, but it ends up allowing for much more earnest conversation. And then people actually come to the table. Like Kim, you were just saying, like, people are aware. People are educated, actually. It's just that there aren't alternatives that are accessible right now. And so I think that's what we all need to do as entrepreneurs and as business people, is to look for ways to make these solutions more accessible. And then the other one is, to your specific question, I think if you find a solution, something that worked for you, that like, for example, we have these reusable paper towels. We just, when we're done, we throw them in the laundry with everything else. That worked. Like that, my husband does it, our housekeeper does it. Everyone kind of caught on with it. On the other hand, like I've been trying to compost for 5 years and like it's not happening. So, sometimes sharing the wins with other people and helping them find the solutions that are easy, once you've built that trust, I think I don't know, that's my learning at least.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm kind of embarrassed by this. Apparently, I watch too much television. But it brings me back to the film Field of Dreams, the 80s film, right? The idea of if you build it, they will come. And I think that's really what Kadeya is hitting on. And from my own experience, that's the truth. Where I live, recycling used to just not be feasible. And then just the past, I don't know, 2-3 years, maybe 4, the city itself started to set up collection centers every Saturday at certain areas. And that's when I was able to begin recycling. I had years and years of this, like putting my can in the trash and being like, God, I know that this can be recycled, but I don't even know where to take it. It's a pain in the butt. And now what I do, my backyard, I organize it and I rinse it out and it's clean. There's no bugs or anything, but I collect a large amount of recyclables, and then okay, it's Saturday, this is the day, and I take everything there and then start over, and maybe every month or 2 I deliver my hoard. But this idea of if you build it, they will come, and I think that's exactly what Kadeya is doing. Congratulations.
Yeah. What I really like, it was the trust element. And on Cancun, I was born there, and there is this system in the city where you can recycle your trash and everything. But once I participated there, I was a volunteer, and then someone shared with me that trash, they burn it. It's not like they do something with it.
No.
And I was like, so what's the point of all of this?
Yeah.
So there is no trust for me in Cancun and in this moment of my life. So it is really important to build that.
Yeah. And that's exactly, I think, at the root of kind of sustainability. People think like, okay, I make all this effort to separate my waste, and I don't trust that it's actually going to get recycled. So why do I even bother? And people just throw their hands up in the air and say like climate change is too big of a problem. Single-use waste is too much of a problem. Like I hate it, but I know it's like, what can I do?
Yep.
And that's the hard part. And so I think also coming back into your earlier question, I think the power of example is really important. Doing things that are a little different. And then not everyone will care or notice, but 1 or 2 people will. And they'll ask, oh, wait, why do you do that? Like maybe you have guests come over for dinner and they see that you're collecting the cans and maybe starting to rinse them out, just saying, oh, like really, this is why I do it. And Saturdays I go and I think there's something really there at the individual level. I do believe that's still important. And we still have to have faith that individual actions matter. But at the same time, we have to hold corporates and governments accountable.
Definitely. Honestly, that's where the true power lies.
Right.
In terms of trust, I mean, we talked a lot about, I think, the software component and a bit about the hardware component of what you do. Sorry, I got my coworker here. That's Fausto.
Hey, Fausto.
His laugh is extremely contagious and extremely identifiable. I love it. So going back to this idea of trust and the hardware component, and I think up and coming, even through COVID, how were you able to accomplish this trust of the water I'm getting, the bottle I'm getting is safe for me to drink? Like get over the perhaps you factor of what you do.
Yeah, that's always been top of mind for everything we do. I will say something amazing that surprised me and that I found to be amazing is in all of our pilots, no one has ever asked about the cleanliness of the bottles. No one has ever worried about it. So that doesn't mean that we don't keep sanitation and health front and center, but it's just to say we are doing something right and we plan to keep doing that. So we're doing our wash and sanitize is superior to any other option that a consumer already has access to. So our cleanliness results beat your industrial dishwasher, which is what, like when you go out to eat at a restaurant, if they put glassware out for you, that's how they cleaned it. We outperform that consistently. We're also working, I can't release their name at the moment, but we are working with the world leader on sanitation and cleaning solutions. For example, they provide all the cleaning solutions for Coca-Cola and for McDonald's. So they're globally trusted and they love what Kadeya is doing. So they are involved and they're helping guide our tech development. So we'll be using their cleaning processes and products. But to your point, and I think this comes back to the trust conversation. Look, we're a tiny business, right? We're just starting out. We have 1 station right now. Next year, we're going to build 30 stations. For us, trust could be our greatest Achilles heel, right? Who are you? Why would I try something new? Reusable bottle? Gross, you know? And what we've done is we said we're going to put trust and make that our core value proposition. And the way we do that is through our data. For the first time as a consumer, you will now, when you drink your bottle, you can scan that QR code on the bottom and you will know everything about your beverage. You can know where did that water, like what reservoir did that water come from? What pipes did that water travel through? How did your city decide to treat it? What pipes did it then end up traveling to your location? How did Kadeya decide to filter? And then also, what is the product you are actually consuming? So what's the electrolyte level? You know, is it basic or acidic? All this information, because even though people may not want all that information, what we're saying is by being the most transparent beverage company in the world, not only are we building that trust, we have nothing to hide, we're also raising the bar on the entire industry and saying consumers want this knowledge. And if you want to give it to them, you have no way to do it unless you work with Kadeya. And so we're turning transparency and trust into a value proposition that nobody else can emulate.
And a fun story to boot. Like, hey, this bottle was last drank in, I don't know, New Orleans. And here I am in, I don't know.
Hermosillo, yeah.
Yeah, like, wonder how I got here. Yeah, it's just fun. Perfect.
The bottle, we think of it as an asset, right? It should be a forever container and it has a story and it has a life and it has a footprint. And I think people, they don't want to check that every day. No. But I think they want to know once or twice.
Yeah, it's super fun. I'd do it. Like, where were you, bottle? Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much. Unfortunately, Manuela, we've come to the end of our time today. It was such a pleasure to learn from you, to be inspired by you. You truly are a powerhouse with great ideas. I hope that they keep on coming and wish you and Kadeya nothing but success.
Thank you. Thank you both so much, America and Kim. Pleasure meeting you.
Our
and
pleasure.
Great to see everyone out there.
Yes, check out Kadeya. Follow them so you can see where the next 30 machines are going to land and more. Awesome. Hang on with us just 1 minute as we go off air. But before we do, we'd like to introduce tomorrow's show.
Yeah, tomorrow we're going to have a show with Arthur Kane, CMO and Vice President of Product at Good Access. The topic is going to be about the new battleground, security SMBs in the era of cyber attacks. And the question is, how can cybersecurity be made practical for everyone? Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific.
That's right. And catch us on Friday as we talk about how to create an awesome work environment on our People Matters panel. All right, also 10 a.m. Pacific. Great. Well, everyone, have an awesome rest of your day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.